Welcome to a look into the future. What would you do if you can go into the future and ask yourself questions about how to grow your firm, how to transition to advisory services, whatever you wanted? Luckily, we don't need the flux capacitor. We can just ask the time traveler himself, Paul Latham, and learn the knowledge we need at our firms to evolve today into advisory services and become the most relevant advisor to our clients. Because that's what it's all about. I'm Garrett Wagner, your Entrepreneurial CPA Channel host, and I'm excited to be joined by the legendary Paul Latham of Hay & Rock Solutions. We have a special show for you today. Paul and I are going to talk about some fan questions. That's right. There's a ton of questions which have come in from everyone watching these episodes. We want to make time to get to them. I know I've been amazed at how many questions have come in so far. So keep them coming, and we'll do some special shows like this where we answer those questions. Today's show, the question today, Paul, someone wrote in is, how do firms train their people to be relevant? How do firms train their people to make this transition we're talking about? So, Paul, when you look to the future, what do you see as how firms can start changing how they train their people?
Good question. Thanks, Garrett. I enjoyed that question. There's really two elements to that question. There's the training people, and then there's the training them to be relevant. And I think you have to start with why relevant. And certainly in my head, CPAs and accountants, they are trusted already, but I don't think trusted is sufficient. The CPA has to become relevant. And to me, the test of being relevant is you're the client's go-to advisor. You're the one that they will talk to. But to break it down a little further, I think to become relevant, you sort of need to be three things. You need to be forward-looking, and you need to be proactive, and you need to add value. And basically, if you were to ask a client and say, what would you rather, backward-looking or forward-looking? Obviously, it's forward-looking. What would you rather, reactive or proactive? Obviously, it's proactive, and so on, adding value. And so you've got to become forward-looking, proactive, and add value. And obviously, that sounds easy. But the truth is, and the difficult part, is sustaining it. It's sort of easy to be forward-looking for a day or a week or a month, and to be proactive for a day or a week or a month, or adding value for a day or a week or a month. The real skill is doing it for 5 years or 10 years. And it's only in that way that you become relevant. And to do that, then you have to be there regularly. Once a year is clearly not sufficient. So you have to meet with your client regularly. And to use a really, really, really trite phrase, you have to have a reason to meet. You can't just keep meeting without an agenda. So you have to have a reason to meet that allows you to build your relevance. So I go back to, and again, everything I do is based on a system. I go back to the three ingredients of success that we've talked about previously. Vision, plan, and desire. So if you're going to be proactive and forward-looking, you obviously start with vision and where we're trying to get to. And in the context of your question, that exercise is fairly high level. It's a vision workshop. It probably involves a senior person. But if we're trying to train people, then I don't think training them on help client with their vision is probably the place to start. It's got more to do with helping them to plan or sustain desire. And those are the two areas then when you can begin to train more junior people to become part of the team that's relevant. And by far and away the easiest is the regular accountability meetings. Once you've established a plan with that client, what the client needs is to have their feet held to the flames. Are you doing it? Are you following through? And they know as well as we do that if they're not held accountable, they probably fail. So an easy thing to do is to have regular accountability meetings. It's a fairly mechanical process, but it has huge client value. And it's really easy to train relatively junior people to run those meetings. It doesn't need to be the most senior partner in town to run an accountability meeting. So it's a great place to begin to train. And then sort of one notch up is then, okay, we're going to be planning with this client. And if we're talking about business planning, and I'll use business planning, there's other types of planning like tax planning, but say business planning, if you're going to work with a business owner client, there's going to be about 4 key areas they're always going to want help. They're going to want help to grow. They're going to want help to get more efficient. They're going to want help to better measure their performance. And they're going to want help with team culture. And if you sort of look at those in terms of degrees of difficulty, I mean, measuring is right up a CPA street. So again, easy thing to train in, helping with KPIs. Efficiency is a reasonably easy thing to do. There are 7 ways to have a process. Again, something that people can be trained on. Growth, that's a bit harder. But we have a process, 4 ways to grow. Team culture, that's more difficult. You need to be more experienced. But basically what I think you can do by sort of breaking it down in the way I've just described is to begin to build a training program, starting with the easiest stuff first, obviously, and creating a career ladder for your people. So, when I was in an accounting firm, we had 10 grades, grade 1 through 10, and you knew what you had to do to get from 1 to 2 to 2 to 3 and so on. And although I've used the business advice example there, you could do it in any area of the business of what do you have to do. Let's show that you're proficient. If you're proficient, then you move up a grade, and if you aren't, you won't. So there's rewards and consequences, and I think that's sort of how you do it. Like everything else, it's structure, system, and breaking it down into easy steps.
I like that. I think, firms can definitely start with that because we're accountants. Structure, system, process makes sense. And I think something you said that really struck with me there is it takes commitment. You can't just start this and give up on it. It's part of the shift we've got to make in firms today. And it's a big shift. And we can acknowledge that and recognize that it is a big shift. We've got to commit to it. And we talked about before, we're creating short-term cash flow or long-term value. Well, if you want to create long-term value, you've got to invest in a long-term shift. It's not going to happen overnight. You can do some things to speed it up, but it's not going to happen overnight. So Paul, I want to kind of follow up on that with another audience question that kind of relates to this. Talk about training your people at different levels. Do you have to wait to be a partner to give advisory services? Or at what point, how soon in someone's career can you start training them to have these different kind of conversations with a client?
Okay. Obviously, you can't be completely specific because the circumstances will vary. One of the reasons that I said, for example, regular accountability meetings is I don't think you need to be very senior to do that, because all you're really doing is checking up on that client. Have you done this? Have you done that? And sort of forcing that out into the open, whether they have or they haven't. And so the answer to that question in those meetings is, really, it's a very mechanical process, and it's sort of almost as early as you like it to be. Having said that, I mean, there's a bit of reality here, which is, it's what I used to call the grey-haired role. And the client likes to see a little bit of grey hair if they're going to take advice. So trying to put it back in the context of how I answered before, vision is definitely something where I wouldn't expect a really young person to be able to do it, not because they couldn't do it technically, but probably because the client wouldn't necessarily take the advice of a very young person. Whereas something like accountability, which is more of a have you done it or not thing, I don't think you need that much grey hair. So you certainly don't need to be a partner. I think you do need a certain ability to get on with the client and have, an ability to talk. When we were recruiting people back in Latham's, I mean, I took it as read that people we recruited could do accounting. We were actually more interested in whether they could talk to people, because we knew that if they were going to be trained up to do these roles, talking to people, having a proper conversation was pretty important. And so the more they had the ability to have a conversation, the more they'd get over that lack of grey hair. And so you've got those 2 or 3 things going on. First of all, start with something easy doesn't need a ton of experience. Recognise that there's a certain age, but it certainly doesn't need to be a partner. But you do have to bring something to the party, and that's a little bit of personality, probably, and not just technical accounting skill.
I like it. So one of the biggest takeaway for everybody out there, if you're younger, get some hair dye, put some fake gray hair in there, make it look like you're older than you are. But I think the biggest point in there, which you're absolutely right on, is we as practitioners, as advisors, whatever the title is, we've got to focus on just connecting and communicating with our clients more so than that technical aspect of, I know the tax code or the GAAP pronouncements, FASB, whatever. I can talk to someone, make connection, and relate to them. That's going to go.
Yeah, Garrett, can I just butt in quickly? You just reminded me of something here. I first started advising clients when I was probably 25, 26, 27 sort of age. And I can tell you that I regularly lied about my age. I pretended to be older than I was. Unfortunately, these days I'm a bit older, and I have to do it the other way around. But I think it's interesting looking back. I think if you have the right personality, age is not the criteria.
I agree. Age, that's that first perception of the age you can kind of get over once you kind of start talking and make that connection. Age becomes irrelevant. So, Paul, thank you so much for your time today and for this look into the future. I know I always walk away learning something, and know everybody watching and listening will as well. Now, Paul, when we talk about behind the scenes, we're getting ready to film these episodes, we talk a lot about how surprised we are that most CPA firms we talk to are not ready for the future. And even worse, they don't even realize it yet. Some of the people in their firms don't realize how far behind they are. And we think you need to know where you stand today. Is your firm ready for the future? Ready to shift into becoming the most relevant advisor? Take a minute, click on the link below, sign up for the free biz survey, and get a free objective assessment of how prepared your firm is for the future. All right, for watching the show, we'll provide you the results for free and a quick pub meeting, as Paul likes to say, to review the results. We can have a little conversation. We can talk about what it means and where you can go as next steps. Like I said, the link's below. I highly encourage you and your firm to take the test and see how ready you are for future success. Now, as always, thank you for watching, everybody. We always appreciate hearing the Entrepreneurial CPA Channel team. Click the link up here, subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out all of our shows. And as always, we challenge you, take action today to change the world and invest in yourself.